Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's installment of ClueCon Weekly. This week with us, we have Virginia Liu, Senior Vice President of Marketing and Ecosystems at Agora.io, which is a video platform. And thank you for being with us, Virginia. Would you like to introduce yourself for just a bit?
Sure, glad to be here, Luca. Hi, everybody. I'm Virginia Liu from Agora. Agora is a real-time engagement platform. So basically allow any developers to embed voice video streaming inside the application. And no matter what platform you're targeting, being mobile or web or VR device or anything, IoT device, right? Anything that you wanted to add real-time voice video interactions, you can use Agora's SDK.
Yeah, I was looking at the SDK this morning, and I noticed you support a lot of not common environments like Microsoft MFC, Unity. There's a lot of interesting niches that your SDK targets. So I'm sure people are building very cool stuff out of it. Which leads me to my first question: what are a few of the most common use cases, and maybe some of the more interesting, not common use cases you've seen over the last years at Agora?
Well, indeed. In fact, I think the use cases coming up every day is just surprising. Many use cases I didn't even thought about. There obviously the more common use case last year, particularly with the pandemic, we see a lot of online education, a lot of e-learning use case, a lot of virtual event use case, and those are the more common one that expected, and still drive a lot of, I think, a lot of demand for the SDK. But also we're seeing a lot of really, interesting use case. For example, online tourism, right? So imagine you actually go to a place without actually going there. You actually think about tourism. One of the things that you think had to be done, on site, right, in real life, but actually people are doing that virtually now. And we also have applications that allow you to allow you to actually have a virtual meeting inside a virtual environment, right? So not just like this conference application, but actually inside a park, inside your actual office, in a completely virtual 3D environment. So actually you can decorate your office like your real office, put a picture there and put your own family picture on the table, right? Just pretend that's your real office. So it's real like a virtual office kind of application. That not just like a conference call. I think that's the main difference, right? People actually getting Zoom fatigue. What they want is that real life interaction, like having this ad hoc conversation, the water cooler conversation in the office. You randomly go into the hallway and you have a random
Yeah.
conversation with your colleague about something very important, right? So those kind of applications is something that we're seeing emerging. I think one thing in common is that they're trying to really replicate that real life interaction. Right? So it's not just using video in a very practical way, utilitarian way, but really use it in a very social way to try to, recreate this human bond and this connection between people.
So we'll come back to this in just a second because, of course, we know where it's tied to and where the need comes from. But is there? You mentioned IoT. Could you give us a couple examples of how people are using video with IoT? Because I'm personally curious to find out. It's interesting in itself.
Yeah, well, so these are something that I guess IoT in the very broad sense. I think we're talking about basically smart devices. So devices, for example, smartphones, smart speakers, and sometimes it's just where it's a headset, it's a wearable device that people actually wanted to have real time voice and video, right? Give you an example, it's a smartwatch. There's people actually use those the little smartwatch for their kids, and then have real time well,
Wow.
really it's kind of like Apple Watch, but without the actual without the phone. You don't need a phone. You can just have a little smartwatch, give it to your kid, and you can talk to them whenever you want to get hold of them.
That would be that's incredibly cool. Yeah, I think there's a lot of new devices being developed because of how things are changing, and we all know. So you mentioned earlier that a lot of people are looking for recovering a lost experience, which is the in-person thing. Which is, of course, we all know it's about COVID, and we hope it's going to be over soon. But it's been strange and different, and sometimes difficult for the entire industry. So, what have you seen as a challenge, and how have you tackled it in the last year and a half?
You mean for ourselves,
Yeah,
in terms
but
of
but
how we
yourself
work?
and customers. If you've seen people do anything interesting, what have you done internally? It's always interesting to know.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that we've done last year that was, I didn't think was possible. Actually, we hired so many people without actually meeting them. It's something before COVID-19, I didn't think that would ever work. But we have some of the best hires that we hired last year that person. We still have not, and we hire people from everywhere, and the team actually performing really well. We're working well together, being completely distributed. I think that is really something surprised us, even how well this worked.
So you weren't distributed before COVID,
We
or
were
did you have people?
distributed, but not 100%, right? So we do have, we do have headquarters. We have headquarters in Santa Clara. So most of people are in Santa Clara, and I mean, I'm based in Seattle, but I'd go to Santa Clara every other week. So half of my time is spent in Santa Clara. But now I'm in Seattle entire year, and I haven't been there. But it doesn't really impact my ability to get stuff done. But you had to do some stuff to actually, I think, to make sure the team still had that bonding and have this trust among each other, even though you're not seeing it, not seeing each other. You don't hang out with each other socially. So we need to create this social bond. And we do a lot of virtual happy hours, right? Which we didn't do before. We just do a lot of games. We talk more about, we have meetings designed specifically to talk about non-work stuff, right? So we do so many
Oh,
conference calls non-stop. So we set up this virtual meeting, virtual event every week. So hey, let's talk about nothing, nothing but just your personal things, right? About personal connection and know each other better. I think that's super important to help the team to kind of really have build the bonding and then build the trust.
that is very interesting. We actually were watching football games together at one point over the season. So that's been that's actually something that resonates with SignalWire too. We are mostly remote. We have an headquarters, so there's really like 3 people. The sales the sales people are there, but in California. But in general, we're all distributed, and we're all been doing distributed for a long time. And I feel like I don't know if you experienced that, but one of the challenges new hires is almost always not the skill level or what they know to what to do, etc. But it is how they adapt to remote, because there's people who really can't do it, and it's been hard to get them to get into the groove of remote, and sometimes they just don't work out. It's uh,
Sometimes though. But with the COVID-19, everybody on the equal playing ground, right? I think in the past, people there in the headquarters have a little bit of advantage because they know people. But now, and then some of the information conversation happen in the the hallways, right? So people in remote, they sometimes missing out those information. Now being completely distributed, actually, you kind of put everybody on the equal level, playing field. We all
oh
have the
that
same equal access to information.
That's a very good point. Yeah, it's the Hellboy conversations are happening on the various chat channels now, so people still know what's going on, and it's much more of a distributed environment. So I will say that as a company, we do avoid doing private messaging as much as possible, because that's a key in my opinion. That's one thing I will add. Don't do private messaging as much as you can. Of course, private things need to stay private, but if you're discussing things that interest the rest of the team, do it in an open channel so people can join, and even do it in video. Leave your room open so they can join in, listen in, and we've had a lot of success with that, especially newer hires.
Yeah, that's
That-
great. Yeah, we're doing something very similar.
Cool. So, now we come to a question that's very dear to my heart. You're in marketing, and you have a lot of experience in marketing to both developers and non-developers. And I've recently taken up some of those tasks too. So I'm personally interested to know. So how do you reach out to developers, and how do you reach out to non-developers? With a platform like Agora, which is very much a developer. So let me frame this. Agora is a very much developer-oriented platform in the sense that it doesn't do quotes anything unless someone builds an application on it, right? It's not a product you download and it runs. Neither of us is selling Microsoft Word, which is buy license and start typing. This is something you need someone to build an application for you for. So how do you reach developers, and how has it been more effective for you to do technical marketing, so reaching out to developers or reaching out to the business people and then have their developers ask you questions like this?
Yeah,
It's interesting because people are used to selling a box with something in it. We sell a kit which is even missing some parts. In a sense, you have to add
yeah.
your own parts and build your own thing. So what's the strategy for a company like that look like?
Yeah, I think marketing to developers at almost like a dirty war, right? So because developers really don't like to be marketed to.
That is
um,
so true.
so
You
most
write a
people,
guide and they get angry.
Right. So I almost don't want my job to be like, marketing. Because given the nature of my job, I really think our job is not trying to sell the solution to market to developer. I think is really to help them find the solution. Is they have a problem, and I'm trying to inform them how my solution can help them solve their problem. Right? I think eventually that is the fundamental difference. Maybe that can be true. Same thing for non-developer audience. But really, then you have to think about what is the problem developer trying to solve, and how you're going to help them solve their problem. And then do it in a way that there's no BS, right? Because one things that I think I know about the developer audience, that they have a super fine-tuned bullshit detector, right? They know when you're bullshitting them, so definitely don't do that. And really just help understand their problem, have the empathy for them, and and knowing that developers are really creative, and they're problem solvers, they're builders, and you just need to essentially let them build their thing. Don't tell them what's right, what's wrong, but just tell them, be helpful, give them the information they need to help them solve their problem.
So try to get people by showing a problem and how it's resolved. Not even a problem, just a challenge. Like, how do you need to build to integrate video chat in your application? Here's how we did it at X. So case study style thing is probably the best way. That's interesting. Yeah, I think you're totally right in saying that selling to developers is a losing proposition. They don't want to talk to you. They're engineers after all. They generally don't like people to begin with. So getting marketing is hard. And
Right.
I'm a typical engineer.
I can tell, right? So your email communication or any marketing communication, you cannot be trying to sell them, right? You had to be how you helping them, how you inform them about a specific problem they're having. So really, it's more about education, more about informing. That's why a lot of part of our team, really we don't do too much of the marketing stuff. We gotta keep the website. We gotta have some of the basic stuff. We need to have a communication way to communicate with our developer for sure. But largely, our team is made of developer evangelists. These are people actually they're developers themselves, so they have very high empathy for the problems developers have, and they have to speak their language, right? So we got developer evangelists for iOS, for Android, for Unity, for Flutter, for React Native, all the platforms out there that we support. We need to have a developer evangelist really speak their language and know their problem and pain point, and can really help them solving their problems.
Yeah, that's something we've been trying to build around too. It's developers need to see code to trust in you. Like if there's no code to look at, I don't know. But if there's something that works, then it's instantly better. So in the vein of this, one last question: do you think you get more leads from developer bringing Agora to their bosses, or do you think you get more leads from business people telling their developers, go look up Agora because they're good? If you know
Well,
or have a feeling about it.
yeah, I think it's the former. I think that's what I see more often, is that the developers essentially doing the research and decide what is the best SDK to use, and then they will do the research, and sometimes they will use several. Right? They will try before they make a commit. They will probably try 2 to 3, do the internet research, and then you have to let them try it first, right? Which is why we offer 10,000 minutes free free tier every month, so that we let you, hey, try it, no commitment, so you can see for yourself and test for yourself the quality. And then once they try it, if they like it, they would use you. I think that's ultimately how many of the decision is made, is just based on their actual product experience. So the product sells itself, if you will, right? So really, I think our best investment in marketing actually is made the product experience great. Not only the SDK, the voice video quality is great, but also just the dev portal experience need to be great. Documentation need to be great. The onboarding experience got to be great, right? All the support has to be great. If those experiences are great, I think essentially, your product is sold. And I think that's sort of what I see as more often. Now, we do see sometimes also there's a product people say, we need to do this. We need to add real time voice and video to this product. So you guys do the research, because usually the product manager or the product owner they want the developer to help make that decision, right?
Mhm.
So ultimately, they still defer a lot to the developer to help them identify the best solution. And if there's any potential conflict or tension between the two of them, might be pricing. Well, yeah, this is great, but maybe too expensive or whatever. So that's why I think we're trying to win them both audience. We're trying to say, hey, for developers, our SDK is the most easier to use, the highest quality, lowest latency, and then to the product people, hey, our cost is really good. We can actually scale to pay as you go. It's very friendly from a pricing standpoint. So we're trying to win both audience.
Yeah, you're right in saying that probably when the decision comes from non-technical people, ultimately the mandate, what they ask for is, hey, developers, please add real-time communications to our application. They don't really care about which platform the developers pick because they are the ones that ultimately need to work on it. So being there when they make the choice is very important, and you show that you have a good SDK, you should have good documentation, and they will adopt you. And then pricing is an important discussion very often, but it's not that important, to be honest. The all of the video services that are in the market, to be very very honest, are more or less close-ish in pricing. You can argue for some of them are cheaper for specific use cases, etc. But pricing usually is, as long as you're not $5 per second of connectivity, the people will decide on features, not on pricing. Like, it's fine if it's a cent more, it doesn't matter, as long as it works very well. That's totally true. Yeah, documentation has been interesting. So do you have a separate team writing documentation and examples, just, or is it your normal engineering people that occasionally do some of it?
Yeah, we do have a dedicated documentation team. And so they would, take on all the product documentation. And in addition, we also have our developer evangelists actually building sample app as well, sample code. So I think between the two teams, we got most of the documentation that we need for developers.
That's great. I mean, he goes to show how you can build a great product, which Agora certainly is. And by the way, SignalWire partners with Agora on the telephony connectivity, so you can use SignalWire to call into an Agora channel using our DIDs and stuff. So go look that up or hit me up, and I'll be happy to help you set up both Agora and SignalWire. But the idea is that if you have a great product and nobody knows about it, it doesn't really exist. It's not kind of like a tree falling in the forest, right? Nobody is there to hear it.
Yeah,
It's
that's right. Yeah, I think that's one of our, I guess our job is to make sure people know about this. Actually, we've got people come to us, the developers say, I wish I know about Agora 2 years ago, because I didn't know the solution is available. I've been spending all my time trying to do this myself, and it just didn't work. Oh, if I knew that you existed 2, 3 years ago or 5 years ago, I'm already I'm more successful by now. I'm already very successful killer app. If I knew the solution existed a few years ago. So I think, I think that's really, again, I think marketing to developer audience is really about reaching to the people who actually need your solution. They are solving a problem. How do you let them know that your solution actually solved their problem? How do you find the right people and essentially present your solution so that they don't waste all that time, right? Trying to do something that did not actually, and at the end of the day, did not really solve their problem.
Yeah. That is probably, again, the most important thing is making, even if the product has to be good to begin with, but you can get away with a little hitch in product as long as it's presented correctly. So the most important thing is making people know that there's a great product out there and having them use it. Well, that was a great chat. Thank you so much. I think we went through a few interesting things: common use cases, non-common use cases. IoT video is going to take off very soon, and I want a smartwatch like that for one of my daughters, which is the Wilder one. So she's
Yes.
always out there, so I'm gonna have to find one so I know where she is. And marketing to developers is the key to success in the API space. So even people building on top of both SignalWire and Agora will need to listen to what you said, because it was very very interesting, myself included. I'll go and transcribe the interview so I have notes for myself later. So, well, thank you so much, Virginia, for being with us. Virginia Liu, Vice President of Marketing and Ecosystems at Agora, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Luca.
Thank you.